Hello, I'm Eric from Bosch, and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes on angle grinder guards. Not the most exciting subject, I'm sure, but you need to know that something has changed with manufacturing regulations and advice given to professional users of angle grinders. So I just wanted to outline that a little bit. For a couple of years now, I think it's coming up for 2 years, manufacturers like Bosch, for example, are now obliged to offer a guard that, first of all, is burst proof. Sounds a bit crazy. Why would you want a guard if it wasn't burst proof? But that's not quite what it means. Obviously, the angle grinder guard, you'll recognize this as a fairly standard angle grinder guard that you're probably using on your angle grinders as we speak. This is now a guard which cannot move more than 90 degrees should a disc burst, and that's what's meant by burst proof. If I just show you a typical grinding disc here for grinding metal, there's a fair amount of weight in that, there's a fair amount of substance to it. That's not to say that it's indestructible. These do burst, they do explode, they turn at a very high speed, and should they fracture, you do get very large fragments flown off, and that's the whole point of the guard, of course, to protect you from those flying fragments. And this closed portion of the guard here needs, of course, to be positioned carefully so it's between you and the potential hazard. But burst proofing means when the disc actually explodes, it grows in diameter. Just within a few fractions of a second, the disc gets bigger. And as a result, because all angle grinders turn the disc in the same direction, it's sort of anti-clockwise as you look at it there, the bursting disc will actually catch the edge of the guard right here. It'll catch it. Huge amount of momentum. We've got an edge speed on the abrasive of nearly 200 miles an hour. So it will just act like a hammer onto the edge of the guard. If this guard, however it's fixed, maybe with just a screw clamp, okay, yields to that blow, then just in the dying few fractions of a second of the abrasive, the guard will swing and basically open the path for damage to you from the flying fragments. In other words, you could end up with these fragments embedded in your stomach, or worse, depending on where you're using the grinder. So this guard now, in terms of manufacturing regulations, must not move more than 90 degrees from its original position so that that risk is minimized. And that's something that all power tool manufacturers have to abide by. It's a European norm. We do it on these machines. This is our best-selling grinder, the GWS 9115, 4.5 inch. We do it on this type of machine just by allowing a tool-free adjustment, first of all, just by pushing this little tab on the side, and you've got various little locking positions. You can hear it clicking, so it's a very positive lock, but clearly that won't move should the disc burst compared with the screw clamp type arrangement. You can see it probably better on the guard there without the machine attached. You can see these little carcellations. So that's how we make our small angle grinders conform, and so that's a burst proof guard in essence. There are other ways to do this, of course, but generally speaking, you're seeing fewer machines with the friction type fitment, unless there's some kind of mechanical stop incorporated in the design. So we're bound by it. You'll start to see these tools featuring more and more these burst-proof guards because we're obliged to supply them to dealers. On the same subject, of course, a lot of people will say, well, look, that's a pretty conventional angle grinder. Okay, it's got a vibration control handle, but that's the sort of thing that I use from time to time. And what's new other than this burst proofing? Well, what is also new is that as far as us supplying our dealer network and therefore supplying you, okay, we are obliged to categorize this guard as a grinding guard. Okay, this is a grinding wheel for using at about 30 degrees onto metal, usual thing. It's not a cutting guard. This is the interesting thing. You will find in the user guides that if you intend to use this angle grinder as a cutting machine, why wouldn't you? We would recommend that this guard is not used, and the optional cutting guard, you can see me holding now, is used. It's the same principle, of course. It's guarding you from the waste, from the sparks, and from possibly a burst disc. But it's closed. Up to, I think, 170 degrees is the norm. It has to close the disc in almost to 180 degrees, as you can see. So it's difficult to use this for grinding because it tends to get in the way when you're using the machine at the usual angle. But this is not supplied as standard with the machine. And so, of course, it does limit what we can do in terms of discs supplied. We can quite happily supply a grinding wheel and just the one guard. But if we start supplying cutting discs, standard abrasive cutting discs, then of course we would need to supply this guard as standard with the tool. So just something to bear in mind, and if you're one of the few people out there that read operating instructions for angle grinders, you will see that this guard is illustrated, and as a responsible manufacturer we would recommend that if you're cutting with the machine that you swap guards. It's easy enough to do, and fit one of these cutting guards to your machine. So just a heads up really, just some information on that, and I'll talk a little bit in another movie about how switches have changed, because even the dear old on-off switch on the angle grinder, common or garden angle grinder, has changed due to these sort of safety biased manufacturing regulations. So thanks for watching. I'm Eric from Bosch.